Welcome back to Fast Market on the TD Ameritrade Network. I'm Tom White, joined by my co-host Kevin Hinks. But let's bring in our next guest for our cash tag segment, and that's going to be Megan Brantley, the Vice President of Research at LikeFolio. Thanks for being here, Megan.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, I didn't even plan this, Megan, but we talked about you guys talking Peloton today, and then like magic, news hits. They're lowering the price of their tread and a couple of their bikes, but then also jacking up my subscription by 13% from $39 a month to $44. What kind of data are you seeing on Peloton? Because it just doesn't seem good based on what you're seeing in the stock price.
Yeah, I was going to say, shout out to you guys for picking a very timely topic for today's segment. This is one that whenever we look at Peloton, it's kind of an interesting scenario because we've seen purchase intent mentions of Peloton actual equipment decline for a while now. Right now, I think those mentions have fallen by about 56% on a year-over-year basis. So, there's definitely been a slowdown in this, the sale of these new equipments. However, we also know that existing users are pretty happy. So consumer happiness levels for Peloton in our universe are above 84% positive, which, that's pretty significant in our world. So these users, once they get this Peloton equipment, they're typically pretty happy. But, I think that makes this move really interesting because it's essentially allowing Peloton to bring more users in the door at a lower price, remove that barrier to entry, and then hopefully collect more revenue and perhaps more consistent revenue since it's subscription-based long term. So I think that for us, that high level of consumer happiness, that suggests to us that, we don't think this, I think it comes out to be a $5 raise in this subscription price, that it will spook current users just because we know that those current users are addicted to their Pelotons and their devices. I know, anecdotally, personally, I am. I don't think that this will necessarily scare me away, but this will definitely be something that we need to watch and we're going to keep an eye on. We are tracking those Peloton cancellation mentions. So mentions from consumers who are talking about, quitting that subscription. And prior to this announcement, those mentions were actually trending lower. They were lower by about 40% year over year. So, we do see retention in the existing Peloton user base. So it's going to be really important to watch to see, does this move, improve this line, that green line, those mentions of people who are purchasing the bike, is this going to grow Peloton's user base? And will those existing users stick around?
Yeah, Megan, this is the old country club business model, right? When times are a little shaky, lower the price to get in, but keep the monthly. Remember, companies like this, they'll be profitable off the monthly numbers. So, Tom, you raise that a little bit, you lower the entry fee of getting the bike, and slowly but surely, and you read the articles, they keep cutting costs, they keep trimming the expense side of their balance sheet, and suddenly this will start to turn around. But I think bodies in the door is the key to Peloton's success. Because like you said, Megan, very few people that own a Peloton don't like it, or like the app, or like the website. They're all positive on those kind of things, but you got to get those, I don't want to say butts in the seats, because that seems like I'm playing a game with the bike, but you know what I mean, right? You need butts on the seats to use the app and pay that monthly fee that Peloton will use to get themselves back in the game. But Megan, $171 to $25. Throw us some type of a lifeline, Megan, where we can have hope here.
I think that this is a good sign. Whenever we look at this is what we like to see, because like you mentioned, this is Peloton playing the long game here and knowing that they do have a good product and that once they get people, they can hopefully sustain that, revenue and continue to grow that revenue long term. I think, one thing that they've also done recently, last week they launched their Peloton guide. That's something that we're watching pretty closely. It received a lot of momentum when they announced this a couple months ago, and we started to see a little bit of traction from mentions of consumers who are talking about this. But I think what's interesting is that, it's a lot of mentions from existing users. So people who are already Peloton users who are now considering adding on this guide, which allows you to do these strength exercises and these strength workouts that are monitored. And so I think that this will be really important moving forward, but it's a potential upsell for Peloton as well. So I guess, that could be the lifeline to continue monitoring, Kevin, from a positive perspective for Peloton. But, whenever we're looking at that overall consumer demand, those mentions, that momentum from consumers, it's definitely waning. So for us, if we were to have some type of an earnings score, our earnings score would lean pretty bearish. And I think that that's reflected in the share price as well. You can see on this chart, Peloton certainly is facing a lot of headwinds, at least near term, while people get excited to return to these group fitness classes and return to the gym. And, maybe they're working out at home less. However, we'll see how this all, evens out as this kind of excitement wears off and people, normalize into their routines again. Peloton definitely has a value proponent, and it definitely has a superior kind of at-home group fitness class, if you will, that I think a lot of other, at-home workout equipment don't offer. So really, as you mentioned, the more butts that you get in seats, the more valuable Peloton is as a user, because you have more, more room for social engagement and social interaction and competition and all of these things that kind of, set Peloton apart from the rest. So it's definitely something we're watching, but we do want to see that needle move in terms of consumer demand. We want to see the, the lowering of the price, bring more people into Peloton's environment before we're ready to say, okay, all is right with Peloton.
Yeah, and Megan, this, I think, comes back to, that price entry point, too. The bikes and the treads are pretty expensive. With this new guide, you're going to pay $60 to $100 a month. That includes, the monthly subscription and the product, the bike or the tread that you're buying. So that should help a little bit. But if you look at, this is a fickle business, right? You've got Planet Fitness doing well as people are going out to the gyms now. But that seems to be one of those things where if you're paying $10 a month and you're not going, because I think that's what you're saying, that, the use of the app, the Peloton app, it's like anything in fitness. If you're not told to do it, it's going to become a clothes hanger in your workout room at this point. Is that part of the reason why you're seeing a little bit of a deterioration in consumer sentiments falling in here? Because it's just the nature of the business, right? It's a fickle business, and you have to be motivated to keep this going.
Yeah, I think that we are seeing those app usage mentions temper, especially on a year-over-year basis. I think this is somewhat expected. This is just kind of a normal, maturation process of users that really joined during the pandemic and were really excited about it, and things are kind of normalizing now. I think that one positive thing that Peloton does bring to the table is the experience that you get whenever you're using its products is really high, and it's higher versus most other peers. 84% positive in our universe is nothing to laugh about. And, that's really significant for the amount of mentions that Peloton receives, because it receives a lot of mentions from consumers, and consumers talk about, they really like the instructors, they really like the playlists, they really like the connected features of Peloton. So I think the more that Peloton can leverage these items, the better they're going to do, and the more likely they are to retain those users and continue to grow that subscription base.
Well, I rate every one of my classes when I'm done with it, Megan, and I always put positive stuff in there. So maybe I'm not the norm, as my sentiment there is pretty positive on this. It's just one of those fickle businesses, I think, and a little bit pull forward during the pandemic caused a lot of these issues as the stock, is down over 85%. All right, great stuff as always, Megan. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. You too.
All right, that's Megan Brantley, Vice President of Research at LikeFolio.com. So, Kevin.